Welcome to another episode of Conversations with Lamp. I'm your host, James Lampkin, and my guest today is the host of Ryan Reviews Everything, Mr. Ryan Poole. Thank you for joining.
Hey, man, I've been pleasure of being here. I've been looking forward to it ever since you reached out in the first place. And once again, I'm just happy to be here.
First of all, man, I'm happy to have this conversation with you because this is a topic that I wanted to talk about with Father's Day coming up,
Mhm.
stepfathers,
Mhm.
because you're a very active stepfather.
Absolutely.
And, we always shine light on the, biological dads, which is great.
Mhm.
But I had a stepfather who was active in my life, and watching you be an active stepfather, it inspired me to want to have this conversation,
Okay.
and I'm thankful that you agreed to have it.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. I'm actually excited for this conversation. I think it's a great idea what you're doing, and I just can't wait to just chop it up with you.
So first of all, let's start with your relationship with your father. How was that?
Mhm. Oh, I had a great relationship with my father, and I think that's one of the reasons why I wanted to pass it forward when it comes to whether I have my own biological children or, in this case, being a stepfather, just because my father was so active. I really feel like there's a big difference. So, like, you could have a father in the home and he not be there, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Like I've had like deep conversations with some of my homeboys, and it's like, yeah, my father was a provider, yeah, but was he active? No. My father had this mind. Other people be like, my father had this mindset of, hey, my whole job is to provide for you, and I'm providing for you. Anything else is extra, or you'd be lucky if you get anything else. But in my sake, I was very fortunate to have not only a provider, but someone who was very active. Even though I'm trash now, somebody from teaching me to play basketball to you know, um, sitting down playing hours of Mortal Kombat with me and my younger brother. Like he was very active in that case. So and that's the thing I feel like people don't understand. You could, just because you're a provider doesn't mean um, you can't also be very active. You can do both.
That's interesting you say that.
Mhm.
Do you think because in the past, like, the older men, the older gentlemen growing up, that was just ingrained, instilled in them. Provide, provide, provide. So sometimes they may have had to take on
Mhm.
extra jobs just to be a provider.
Well,
So
yeah, yeah.
how do you look at that part of it?
Yeah. I mean, if yeah, like I said, I can't speak to like the history in the past, and that is very true, and it could be true in some other cases. I'm not familiar with everyone's situation, but I guess just from my personal experience, I just know my father was, in addition to being a provider, he still made time to be active. He wasn't just he wasn't just like a walking wallet who lived, under the roof with my mom and my younger brother. Like, yeah, like, I guess my father wasn't, he didn't, I was fortunate enough to where my father wasn't too busy where he couldn't spend time with his kids. You know what I'm saying? So, and like, if for those situations, I can't blame him. Like if you got to do what you have to do. Um, so it's not to criticize for somebody who may have that. Hey, I'm only able to provide. If that's the case, this is not to knock them or anything like that. But I can't say I can't say I've had that unfortunate experience.
Would you describe your father as a nurturing man?
Yeah, absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
And the reason I ask that because we look at that role
Mhm,
more as a woman
mhm.
nurturing, but
Yeah.
we never really talk about a man being nurturing and what that looks like. What does that look like to you?
Yeah, like for example, like nurturing, I guess from my perspective, yeah, like, you know, yeah, does tough love exist? Sure, but there is like a softer side that, a male figure can provide to you. I remember, not to get, TMI, but I remember one time I was like very upset about something that, when you're a kid, you feel like the world's crashing down if you know, get embarrassed publicly, and then in addition to that, your grades are slipping, this and the third. You feel like if the world is going against you, you might feel sad or anything like that. Like I do feel like in those situations, like my father was there to be like, it's okay to cry. You could let me know what's going on. It wasn't like this stereotypical, hey, suck it up. You're a boy growing up to be a man. You can't be soft, crying is weakness. Like I didn't have that type of father. Like I had a father who once again, in my definition of nurturing, he would be like, you know, let's talk it out, what's going on, and then he would let me know how things can get better and how it's not the end of the world. So when I look at nurturing, I look at it from that definition, if that makes sense. You know.
What's some of the biggest lessons your father taught you?
Oh wow. Shoot, how much time we got? Uh, I mean, for real. I mean, he's taught me that. I mean, okay, the big. You said the biggest. I think one of the biggest lessons my father taught me, which I still live up to this day, is don't go out of your way or jump through hoops for people who can't do the same for you. And here at 41 years old, I still feel like that lesson runs deep. And just a quick story, reason why I felt like that was big. Like when at least when I first was into the opposite sex and things of that nature. Like we could be men here. Your whole thing was, hey, I'm just trying to get lucky, especially after I lost my virginity, this and the third. And it would be like I would find myself. I could have plans with my boys, whatever. And the moment my girl at the time was available, I'm dropping all plans just to be with her, this and the third. And but when vice versa comes along, like my girlfriend at the time wouldn't show me that same thing. Or we'd make plans and she had no problem like canceling at the last minute. So my father would see stuff like that in me and he would remind me like, hey, don't break your back for people who won't do the same for you. And that's reason why I feel like it's still true today, because that even goes well beyond, you know, a relation like a boyfriend, girlfriend, or husband, wife relationship. That goes with friends too. So I have that same mentality with friends also. It's like if I'm gonna go all out for my for my guy who I thought we was cool since high school, but when it's my turn to be in need and you can't do the same for me, it's like, I'm not gonna say we beefing or it's beef forever. I just know where we stand now. So that's one of the biggest lessons I felt like he taught me.
Okay. I'm gonna skip. I'm gonna move forward now to
Mhm.
you and your step. First of all, how long you and your wife are married?
Oh, yes, we've been happily married. It'll be 15 years married in July 31st of this year. Um,
Congratulations.
thank you. So 15 years married and 3 years dating prior. So we've been together for a total of 18 years.
Okay.
Mhm.
How was the stepdaughter when you met her?
Taylor was 4 years old when I first met her. And what was funny about that is, at least according to my wife, Tanisha, she was like, Taylor can be kind of introverted. She can not standoffish, but she can just keep to herself, very introverted. And we got along like almost immediately. I remember the first time I met my now mother-in-law, like she had me laughing because she was like, "Yeah, Ryan. Every time Taylor came over to my house, she'd be like, yo, me and Ryan went to the park. Me and Ryan went to the movies. Me and Ryan did this." And my mother-in-law was like, "I thought Ryan was a classmate." Like the way she was talking about me and Ryan did X, Y, and Z. And to find out that it's a grown man who's dating, my daughter, well, was a surprise. So we've had a great relationship ever since I met her. And not to rewind too far, but I also give credit to the positive male role models in my life. Like I said, my father was very active, very nurturing. But in addition to my father, I always knew I wanted to, be, be able to be like not the fun parent, but like be able to, spend time, be active and fun and all that. I give credit to not only my dad, but my uncles. Like my uncles, anytime I went to South Carolina, it was like no matter how tired they was, they weren't too tired to take me and my cousin to the pavilion or to the arcade. They wasn't too tired to, hey, let's play 21, basketball. So the moment I became an adult and I saw Taylor, I wanted to make sure I could pay for that type of, being active, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? So I give that credit.
Did you have any like nerves about dating a woman with kids?
No, not really. Now granted, I was 23 when I first met Tanisha and Taylor. But it was almost like I didn't have any reservations. I didn't have any. any fear. It was almost like if this woman is somebody who I want to date, of course I'm gonna accept anything else about it. You know what I'm saying? And even at that time, I was just like, although God didn't have it in the cards, I was just like, we'll just add to the family. But that didn't happen. But which I've come to grips with as well.
Was that and I hope this not too
It's
personal.
not now open
Was
book.
was that was that a hard thing to come to grips with?
Yeah, it was. And to Tanisha's credit, we've had like like 2, 3 hour conversations about it. Like, hey, if we're not able to add to this family, let me know. Let's have a conversation about it. I don't want you to feel like you're stuck or trapped or something like that because you can't, because we just aren't able to add to this family or have any biological kids of my own. So it was difficult to come to grips with, but at that same time, I did have a partner who had that, mindset. Like, I don't want you to be with me and then 10 years down the line have some type of, you know, have some type of anger towards me or any type of resentment. So do you even want to continue this relationship? So that option was given to me. And I've already, I didn't, I still to this day, I didn't believe it then and I don't believe it now. I wasn't going to just ruin a good relationship just off the fact that the reality is I may not, I wasn't able to have any biological kids of my own, you know.
How many years into the marriage,
Mhm.
I'm assuming
Yeah, yeah.
okay, how many years into the marriage
Mhm.
was it when it kinda became known that, okay, we're not gonna add to
Um,
the family?
Probably like, so we got married in 2010, probably about 2013, 2014 ish. It was like, because at the time, like, especially I'm not a doctor, but like the more time passes, like it's more dangerous for women to even go through pregnancy, and it's so like as time passed, it was just like, probably like 3 or 4 years into it, we was just like, okay, this may not happen. And that's actually when we had the conversation about, what should we do about it? Do you even want to stay in this marriage? And it was a very tough decision, but once again, it was something that, I commend Tanisha for. She was open enough to be like, you know, is this something you even want to continue? So it wasn't like some situation where she was like, oh, well, we married now. Ain't nothing you can do about it. It was, she really looked at me as more like a friend than like a husband at the time.
Mhm.
Like, I understand you may want kids of your own. If that's not able to happen, do you even want to still be in this marriage? Do you even still want to, you know, yeah, just be in this marriage? Um, and yeah, and I still wanted that just because, at that time, you know, Taylor had a great relationship with me. So even still, it wasn't like, even if we got divorced for, God forbid, even if we got divorced for any other reason now, it wasn't like, it's not like I'm not gonna be in Taylor's life. You know what I'm saying? So even when that tough conversation came up back then, like, we still would still I would still have a great relationship with Taylor even if we ended things when we first had that tough talk. So
I mean, it's a tough question for me to ask, but
Mhm.
was there any point that you did consider leaving?
um yeah, it's not I mean, yeah, I mean there was a point where I did consider leaving, but it wasn't because of, like, us not being able to add to the family. It was more so just sometimes it's like how the ups and downs of marriage can go. I know, like, for example, you see all these couples on Instagram or YouTube and everything is honky dory. But yeah, we all, like, nobody's perfect in relationships. So just for other reasons, yeah, I did consider it. And I'm sure my wife has as well. But, then once again, I feel like that's just one of those, things that most marriages and relationships go through. Is it talked about a lot? Probably not. But yeah, it was something I did consider, but not because of adding to the family.
How'd you overcome it?
I overcame it by just really, you know, um, just like just really soul searching, if that makes any sense. Like, this is somebody you love. It's not like the issue that was going on was, if I'm being honest, it's not that the issue that was occurring was her fault. It was more so, me making dumb choices. You know what I'm saying? And so, and really just being like, okay, I know I could be a better person. I know I can, I know I still love this person, and I know I could do better. I think that was probably one of the somewhat setbacks when it comes to getting married early. Like I said, we first started dating in 23. I got married at 26. And so I feel like, there may have been some decisions where I could have done things a lot differently. Um, just because, you just do young and dumb stuff.
You it's interesting that you said that you got married young, right?
Hmm.
Because I got married young too,
Okay.
23. Is there like a sweet spot age you feel like is a good age to get married?
I know, and that's the thing. Even though I said married too young, I don't think there's like a I don't think there's a sweet spot age necessarily, but I do feel like maybe there could be like a sweet spot in terms of maybe making sure you have all your can we cuss on here? I'm not sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think the
Grown.
room, yeah. I think there's a sweet spot in making sure you have all your shit together,
Mhm.
and I'm not just saying that from a financial standpoint. I mean, making sure you have all your shit together in terms of, realizing, okay, let me get personal. Like for me, having my shit together meant, hey, you have somebody to go home to. You can't just hang out all hours of the night and not check in. And once again, those are the examples of what I mean when I say young and dumb.
Yeah.
You're married now. You just can't at a drop of a dime go hang with the fellas and have your wife be the last person to know. Stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I mean when I say you're doing young and dumb stuff or having your shit together, realizing that you really have a partner you have to run things. You have a partner you got to run things by, and I know some people might try to, think that's soft or that's being whipped in your marriage or something like that. I feel like that's not the case at all. I feel like it's more I have a partner who needs to be checked in on certain decisions I make. Simple as that.
How long did it take for you to understand it? 'Cause, so like I said, I got married at 23, right? And I I could say this.
Mhm.
I was in the military the first year we got married,
Okay.
and then came home. I didn't go out much, but I did do things with my cousins and stuff.
Mhm.
And that's taking away time from
Yeah.
family. So
Yeah.
I get what you're saying.
Mhm.
And it took me a long time. And I'm gonna be honest, man. Shit, even up until my divorce, I was figuring that shit out, and getting it wrong. So it's just one of them things you're trying to balance, you're trying to balance your personal life and your time.
Mhm.
And it's not, and let me be clear, my ex-wife wasn't one of those people who was demanding of my time and trying to take all my
Likewise.
time.
Yeah.
It's just sometimes I was selfish about it.
Mhm.
I was thinking about what I wanted at that moment. Hey,
Mhm.
I want to go out. I want to go watch the fight,
Mhm.
but I haven't done anything in the home
Mhm.
to make sure she good to give her time.
Yeah.
So because of that, now she feels neglected.
I've been there. That's exactly what I'm talking about. So I completely understand that. And yeah, to answer your initial question, like, yeah, I don't think you should probably like I probably was on that type of time until probably like 29, 30. And I mean, like I said, there was still a lot of good times,
Mhm.
but like I said, there was still a lot of boneheaded decisions where I would do things without running it by my wife because you just you think you're just so used to that single life, even though you have a ring on your finger, if that makes sense.
A lot of sense.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And to you, just like you said, like it probably took like 4 years for it to really sink in. And like I say, even still, it'll be times where like I'm just, I want to hang out with the fellas or this and the third but at the same time, I'm still wasn't putting in, as much time and consideration into the house during that early parts of my marriage. So yeah, I get that.
So you talked about like possibly leaving.
Mhm.
Um and we know a lot of times, to be honest, people stay together before the kids.
Yeah.
So how much of a factor was that, Taylor? Like,
Mhm.
hey, I don't want to, this is a we're family now, and I don't want to break the family up. Like,
Yeah.
how important was that for you?
I mean, it was a big factor, because yeah, it was a huge. I mean, I'm not saying I stayed for the kids,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but it was a definitely a big factor because even in the case of, like I say, God forbid, knock on wood or whatever, like if even if I got divorced tomorrow, like I would still be in Taylor's life, but it would be different because, if she comes home from college, she would have to get used to seeing just her mom instead of seeing her mom and Ryan. You know what I'm saying? So it's a big factor because even if we parted ways years ago when Taylor was in grade school or whatever, it still will be a factor of like she's not gonna see me every day when she's used to seeing me every day after school. It would have to be I would have to schedule my time when she's available to come see her, stuff like that. So it would be, so it played a huge factor because once again, not the sole factor, didn't stay for the kids, but it played a huge factor because I did, grow we had like, she had like a bond of like this positive male figure in her life, and I didn't want anything to be like traumatizing, if that makes
Mhm.
sense. Or
Yeah.
I didn't want it to look as I didn't want to let her down, especially for someone who at times, according to my mother-in-law, looked at me as the big friend, so stuff like that.
'Cause, I mean, I could say this, with the whole family thing.
Yeah.
Going through my divorce, unfortunately,
Mhm.
you're not there with your kid every day.
Yeah.
Like, fatherhood looks different.
Mhm.
So you're not like my daughter's 13 now. And, at first I was like, hey, I'm gonna make sure I see her every weekend. I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that.
Mhm.
But my daughter, but then I had as we started to go through the process,
Mhm.
I started to realize, hey, my daughter's 13. Like,
Yeah.
I have to let her make that decision. Like, hey, I want to do something today.
Mhm.
Because you go to school the same way we go to work every day all during the week. They go
Mhm.
to school every
Mhm.
day all through the week.
Mhm.
And you just don't, I
Yeah.
don't want to be like, okay, well, this is my time.
Mhm.
This is my time. I need to do this.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a delicate balance, and I don't know if it's talked about enough. So,
Yeah, yeah, it's a very delicate balance. I get you on that.
but I don't want that for you though.
No. But you're right. Like I said, I think one of the, benefits in my situation not situation, in my marriage relationship with Taylor, one of the benefits is Taylor has 3 parents. Taylor doesn't have like, her biological father isn't like some deadbeat. She has 3 active parents, and so to your point, even as active as he is, he doesn't have the benefit of seeing Taylor every day because because Taylor lives under our roof, or Taylor is 22 now. She has the option to see her biological father whenever she feel like now, stuff like that. But to your point, you know, you lose that privilege to see your child every day because, like you say, whether it's a divorce or whatever the case is, a breakup. So, yeah.
You mentioned the father, and
Hmm.
I'm glad that you did.
Yeah.
How what was you two? How did you two sit down, have a conversation? Like, hey,
Hmm.
be around, and like, what was that like for you two?
What's funny is like we didn't have like this face to face sit down necessarily, but whenever we saw each other, it was very cordial, very respectful, things of that nature. If anything, it wasn't like in person or anything, but if anything, Tanisha had the conversation with the biological father, like, hey, yeah, it does look like what me and Ryan have is serious. So you may see him around. Is that going to be a problem? Are you going to be okay with that? And she shared a conversation with me, and the biological father had no problem with it. And the thing is I don't think it's rare. I don't think it's like this unique thing, but I think the thing that is kind of cool is within all 3 of us, between the 3 of us rather, our priority is Taylor. That's it. So there's no type of there's no jealousy towards me that I'm with the mother of his kid, nothing like that. Like the only priority is Taylor. So she has three active parents who all want the best for her. And I think that's the way it should be in a perfect world.
I don't know if you have the advice. Maybe you do. I hope you do.
Mhm.
What do you say to men who actually in this situation where they trying to navigate
Mhm.
the father and the stepfather and managing that relationship? What would you how would you say to do that?
Well, I mean, I think the way to do it is like whether it's like if you like I think the way to do it is just to be like just let it be known I'm not here to replace you. Like if you're talking to the bottle, I'm not here to be the replacement dad. If anything, what's the term the kids use now? If anything,
Okay.
I'm here to be I'm here to be the bonus parent, the bonus dad. I'm not here to replace anybody. I don't want anyone's role to feel like it needs to be threatened. The priority is just make it clear the priority is the kid. That's it, and maybe I'm gassing it up or anything like that. I feel like if there is some animosity, once again, I'm not an expert. This is just me gassing it. I feel like if there is some animosity, there might be still feelings involved. Like I feel like if the father was, felt a certain way about me, maybe it's because, it would have been something where he wanted his family back or something like that, or does that make sense?
Mhm.
But I feel like in a hypothetical world, I feel like if you have a problem with someone trying to put your child first, and that's where it ends, I feel like there's some type of lingering feelings or some jealousy there. And in our case, that wasn't the case.
Okay. For you, how important was it that you got along with him?
I mean, on a scale of 1 to 10, it was I don't know, probably like a 6 or 7. Um, luckily, like I said, he's a very laid back dude. There's no beef, cordial, friendly every time we see each other. Hell, he's met my parents before in certain family gather situations. You know, you know, his mom, yeah, his mom and myself, we get along great. Like she's still in Taylor's life. She calls me not all the time, but when she does call, she was like, Ryan, if nobody else picks up their phone, I know I could call Ryan. And that's coming from the biological dad's mom. That's coming from Taylor's grandma on the biological dad side. But yeah, we all just get along really, really, really good. So once again, I think the advice should be to always just put the child first.
Even I've noticed even you even name your businesses after her.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Taylor Photos DMV on Instagram. I do a freelance photography business. Yeah, I feel like once again, like we've had the long talks, and I came to grips that I can't, wasn't able to have a biological child of my own. But we have that relationship where I don't believe. Yes, this is a stepdad episode, but I don't title Taylor as a stepdaughter. I'm gonna treat her as if she was my biological daughter. So, when it comes to saving up for financially, maybe passing things forward for the future for your child. Hey, what- Taylor's in a good place to where not only does she have two parents in a household who is looking out for her best future, she has biological dad doing the same thing. And I only bring that up because yeah, I named my photo company after her. We have a rental property, and whenever we decide to sell that, we'll put some portion of that aside to help Taylor with whatever maybe help Taylor buy her first house, stuff like that. So I just wanted to still instill that same type of energy that I would if I had my own biological kid.
I want to back up because I thought about a question I wanted to
Yeah,
ask you.
yeah.
Um, once you and your wife, realize that okay, we're not gonna have biological kids. This is the family dynamics. That she said, did it make it easier moving forward in your marriage, like not having to have that conversation anymore?
It did. It actually did make it, it's like you just kind of come to grips with it. Like, reason why I made it easier, I'll say this, is because, you know, um, I kind of had I already had a family, or already developed a family, even though it wasn't a biological kid involved. I have a loving wife. I have, a daughter who, you know, looks at me like an extra father, things of that nature. And also there was never any type of, knock on wood, I lied to you not, there was never any conversation to where even if me and Taylor disagree, there was never some conversation where Taylor was out of pocket and was like, well, you're not my real dad anyway. There was nothing like that. So I feel like that made things like comfortable because we were already functioning as a family anyway. I'm talking about me literally teaching Taylor how to ride her first bike, me teaching Taylor how to drive, things like that. Me, same thing that my dad did. Even though I was trash, I could at least teach Taylor the basics of how to play basketball, stuff like that, or whatever sport she wanted to play. And to answer your question, it made things a lot easier because, we already had that conversation and we were still functioning like a healthy family. We had Taylor in a lot of different sports, like I said, basketball, lacrosse, track, um, and I was the active sports dad at all those events. So we were still moving like a family, which made that harsh reality a lot easier to digest. It's like, okay, yes, you don't have your own biological kid, but this little girl who you've known since she was 4 loves you all the same. So
You've mentioned family
mhm,
repeatedly.
mhm.
Where would you say the Black community is at as a family? Like when it comes to the family dynamics, where
Ooh,
would you say we're at?
well, that's a deep question right there. So when you say is a black community as a family, do you mean like the harsh reality of what I think happens, or
No. Okay, let me rephrase the
Mhm,
question because that's actually a good point.
mhm.
So let me rephrase it. Do you feel like we in the Black community do a good job of stressing family dynamics, like
Okay.
getting married?
Mhm,
Because unfortunately, it's a lot of, hey, you don't have to be with that woman if you have a kid. Like we
mm,
have a
mhm,
like there's a lot of kids being had out of wedlock.
mhm,
And then with that, there's not a lot of like the parents are divided. Says you don't have that family structure.
mm.
So that's why I asked that question.
Okay, 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 that's a better way to phrase it. I really feel like, and I hope I'm answering your question with this. I do feel like, especially if you see how, the public or the media may portray the black family, I do feel like a lot of that, not a lot of it, I do feel like some of it can be like a disrespectful stereotype. Like you hear the stereotypes, oh, okay, uh, if you see like I'm just making up one of the stereotypes I've seen before. Okay, you seen this kid playing basketball, but I bet his father's not around or something like that. I do really feel like, the black family gets a bad rap in that sense. For example, and who knows, maybe it's my small circle of friends that I hang around with, but all of my male friends that I grew up with or met in college, all of them are married. All of them have kids by their wives, things like that. All of them now or they have kids going into college and they're just as active fathers as I am in my family. I feel like it is emphasized a lot, that family is big, family is strong in the black community. But I feel like with certain outlets or maybe certain lowbrow jokes, from the outside looking in, you wouldn't think that. But I feel like family is really big in the black community. And from a positive standpoint as well. But yeah, I just feel like some people try to only highlight the negatives when it comes to it. Like, yeah, are there some deadbeat, fathers in the black community? Yes. But it's I don't think it's this big, and once again, I'm not looking at statistics, but I don't think it's like this big, you know, surge in numbers as what you may assume could be if you see like how it's portrayed in the media. I hope I answered your question
You
with
did.
that. Yeah.
When you hear people say
Mhm.
there's no benefits for men in marriage, what do you think?
Oh wow, that's a good one. I do think there are benefits, for men in marriage, especially once again, I can only talk about my perspective.
Mhm.
I do feel like there's a benefit, in marriage. For example, I feel like if anything, just having like a family structure, um, a wife that you can really have, real conversations with, and not scurry from tough conversations. I think it does make you a better person. Like I feel like it makes you a better person in the sense of, you know, building your own confidence up. Realizing that, hey, taking more pride in being a provider, taking pride in, in being that, foundational, strong support for your wife, being that foundational, strong support for, in my case, stepdaughter. I feel like it really can build your benefit in that way, build your confidence. You know, even on a financial level. There's been a lot of financial ideas that I've had where the old me, I probably wouldn't have been as inspired to pursue certain um pursue certain avenues, right? But because I have a partner who I can bounce ideas off of, because I have a partner who I can let her know what I'm thinking and this is my game plan. What is your opinion? They can once again, you need a spouse who's going to give you an honest answer. Not saying they're trying to hurt your feelings, but give you an honest answer. Like I have, my wife can tell me, you know what, I think that's a great idea for you pursuing your freelance photography business. But if you want to do that, maybe you should do it this way. And I'll give more specific example instead of this cookie cutter vague answer. So I started Taylor Multimedia, a freelance photography business. And at first, I knew I was pretty decent with, taking photos and stuff like that. And but from a business mindset, I was just like, all right, I charged 50 an hour at first when I first started out. Um, I would, do a job and just be kind of like nonchalant about it. Once again, this is my personal experience. I'm not saying everybody can relate to it. And I'll be very nonchalant about it. Hey, I charge 50 an hour. When I'm done, you could pay me, you know, hey, I worked 3 hours, you owe me 150, for an example. This is the early days. And sometimes like because I had that laid back, lackadaisical, that too cool, laid back personality, there'd be sometimes I get done with someone's photos and I got screwed out of a couple jobs to where they'd be like, damn, I thought people was trustworthy enough to, to follow up with their word. Like I didn't have a signed contract. I didn't believe in all that. But because, I have like a wife who sees the hard work I put in, things like a word, now it's like, look, create some contracts, have people sign them. Hey, if a job is this long, you should require a deposit. Half the money up front, and they pay the second half when you finish the photos. Just different stuff like that. As a more specific example, is how it can benefit. Um, I feel like men personally, race doesn't even matter. Black men, whatever the case is, but you have someone who I feel like can make you a better person, personality wise, or in my case, build confidence, things of that nature. But even from a business standpoint or a financial standpoint, there's nothing wrong with having a business partner who lives under your same roof, who could look at your idea and be like, "That sounds good, but maybe you should tweak it this way," and see how that works.
I love that answer.
Mhm.
How do you feel like when because this is important. I feel like this is
Yeah.
important. How do you feel when she doesn't see your vision?
It can be frustrating when she doesn't see my vision, but at the same time, I gotta realize, you know, we're adults. I could sit down and ask why, and she'll let me know why, and I'll be like, okay, you know what, the way you broke it down made sense. Like, even though, like I said, I got screwed. I mean, it only took one job. I got screwed at that one job, and then at first, I didn't even see her vision then, or because she was just like, yeah, Ryan, you need to do better at this. Otherwise, other people, not everyone is going to be as nice as you. Not everyone's going to have this, hopeless, optimistic view of everybody. You got to protect yourself, especially if you're putting in work like that. And I didn't see her vision at first because me having that pride and ego, it was like, "Nah, this was my idea first. You're just trying to tweak it. You're just trying to remix what I came up with." And it's like, you're not I had to realize you're not in competition with your spouse. This is more like a partnership with your spouse. And so if she doesn't see my vision or if she may have like a slight tweak to it, it has been a reason behind it. Now, do we get along with all of our ideas? No, but but it's not. It's definitely at the same time. There's no type of yes man response. Like, okay, you think this is the way I should run it, honey? Okay, it still doesn't go like that. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
What do you enjoy the most about marriage?
Sure. I think the thing I enjoy most about marriage, is actually just being able, to have. And once again, it sounds like a Hallmark card. I promise I'm not trying to give some Hallmark answer. But you really have like a best friend that you could just go through life experiences with. I think that's the thing I like the best about it. And like we all know the definition of a best friend, someone where you could vent your frustrations to, and they're not going to hold back to let you know if you were right or wrong in a situation. A best friend where you can actually enjoy life experiences with. Just different stuff like that. I think the best friend aspect and being able to have conversations about anything in the world, and not having to, hold back, I think is one of the best things in my opinion about marriage. One of the best moments for that, for example, of living one of the best moments with your best friend. One of my best moments happened in 2023, where this is rewinding a little bit, but going back to where I know I wasn't doing, some of the most responsible things in my early stages of marriage and things of that nature. Um, but in 2023 specifically, we both, had a sit down and was like, and we came up with the idea of, you know what, let's renew our vows and have like this strong recommitment to our marriage. And that was like a great experience I had with my best friend. We went to the DR, had like a whole ceremony on the beach, this and the third. We had random friends who we met, random strangers who we met at the resort who came to be guests at our impromptu vow renewal thing. It was cool, so having that experience and just really having a best friend where you can talk about anything and experience anything with is probably one of the dopest things about marriage.
Do you have to be married to your best friend?
I mean, you don't have to. I mean, once again, I'm not going to beat someone over the head that you have to get married. That's just a decision that I felt like was right for me.
No, no, no. Okay, I'm sorry.
Uh,
I'm sorry.
sorry.
Let me, because that's cool. But
Mhm,
when I say that,
mhm.
like, um, the woman you marry, does she have to be your best friend?
Oh,
That's what I meant. And if I wasn't clear about that, you was going down a great road. That's why I just.
oh man. That's a good question. I mean, I mean, shoot, damn, that's a very good question. I feel like by default, your spouse could, well, you can have more than one best friend. I mean, so I would say I think to make the marriage work the best, yeah, they would have to be your best friend.
I, I'll say this right,
Mhm.
and I'm gonna be personal.
Yeah.
So when I was married,
Mhm.
I didn't think my wife was my best friend. Right.
Okay.
It's only when I became single and started moving around,
Mhm.
I realized, damn, I really lost a friend. And I think that was like the hardest thing for me to overcome.
Mhm.
Because at one point I wasn't even sure if we could save the friendship.
Yeah.
Now, now as years passed, thankfully,
Mhm.
we've grown and we've, talked about what happened with the divorce and stuff.
Yeah.
So we was able to build our friendship back, and we're still working on it. It's
That's good.
still things that,
Mhm.
you know, we have to improve on as far as friendship. But I had made up in my mind that, you know what, at least need to be friends,
Yeah.
because that was how we started.
Mhm.
And I think sometimes, it's one of those dumb realities of life. Like, you have to lose something to really
Realize.
understand what you had.
I agree.
So
I agree.
that was why I asked that question.
Oh,
Because
mm,
now if I was to get married again,
mm,
she 100% gotta be my like what I would consider best friend. And I'm glad you even said that
mhm.
you can have multiple best friends. Cause when I hear that question, I'm like, and I don't like like because my producer sitting right here, my cousin
Yeah,
JP. And anybody who knows me knows he's literally like my best friend.
that's dope. That's
We
dope.
cousins, but we like brothers
Right.
and we best friends. Like
Yeah.
he was there at my wedding, everything. So
Mhm.
he's literally my best friend.
Yeah.
So it's like, but he serves a different purpose.
That's all.
When I was married, me and my wife would have to have the deep, intimate conversations that only me and her would be privy to.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm like, yeah, as I've gotten older, I understand, yeah,
Yeah.
you do have to really be best friends because
Yeah. I think that's the only way you making marriage work is y'all have to treat each other like best friends. Not treat you have to be best friends. And like, you can't because like if we all we're grown. Like if you have I like if you have like you know the level of friends that you could just keep at a distance. You like they cool, but they not, but no, your spouse should be your best friend.
I'm gonna transition a little bit.
Please.
I'm gonna get back to your stepdaughter. She's getting ready. Before we started off recording, which was crazy, you told me she's getting ready to graduate college next year.
Next year, next summer, taking that walk.
So how's that for you?
I'm a proud man. If you can't tell, well, first of all, I'm a Morgan State graduate myself, 2005, and I'm a proud parent. Bonus dad, whatever you want to call it, because she's graduating from Morgan State as well. I didn't want to. I definitely didn't want to put any type of peer pressure or try to sway her specifically to go to Morgan. I literally just went to I took her and my niece on like a personal tour. We didn't schedule it. I just took them, just the three of us, and we just walked around my old stomping grounds and was like, "Hey, this is where this building is. This is what this means. This is what that is." And a few weeks later, they both was like, "You know what? We want to go to Morgan State." And so to answer your question, I'm proud. I mean, chest touching to the wall. You know, chest out to here. I'm super proud.
What was that like when she said she gonna go to Morgan State?
Shoot, I know I sound like a broker. I was just proud, man. I was just like, what made you? I just had pride, man. I was like, what made you decide to go there? And she was just like, it just felt like the best fit. I like the fact that it's a HBCU. I like the fact that I'm not too far from y'all, just in case I need to come by for anything because we're only like 45 minutes from the school. Um, and she was just like, just that tour that you showed us, it looked very good. Like it looked cool. And once again, when I graduated in Morgan 2005 versus what Morgan State looks now, the way it looks now, the upgrades are ridiculous. It looks like Wakanda like funded the school with some of these buildings that are going up. But no, yeah, I couldn't have been prouder. I was just yeah, it was like that's the best word I could describe. It was just a proud dad moment for me.
For her, what excites you the most moving forward?
The most thing that excites me the most moving forward is actually a couple of things, but if I had to say that what excites me the most, just to see like the mature young woman that she's becoming, just to seeing how she may handle certain situations, how she is open to. Of course, she has a close relationship with her mom. That's I think a mother daughter bond or a bond with a mother's bond with her children can never be beaten in the first place. But just seeing how, you know, some of the morals and lessons that both me and her mom has instilled in her is really showing. Like, how you carry yourself in certain situations or, you know, some type of financial advice we may pass down. Just seeing all those things really play out in real time as I watch Taylor get older has just been an unreal moment, to be like, wow, she's really maturing into a young, responsible adult, and Yeah, and you'll see it yourself, I'm sure, in some years. But it's like, who am I looking at right now? You can't believe it. So,
I want to end the conversation with this. You only get one word
one word, okay.
to describe your daughter. What's the one word you're gonna use and why?
Oh, you know what? Chill, chill. Taylor's a chill person. And although she, like I said, is introverted for the most part. Me and her, we clicked almost immediately. But I would say chill because hardly anything, hardly anything excites her in the sense of it's not going to be written on her face. Like she can be looking forward to a Beyonce concert, but like from the outs, from the exterior, you wouldn't be able to tell. Like it's not written on her face. She kind of has like this poker face type of mentality, if that makes sense. So yeah, chill would be the best way I would describe her.
Okay.
Mm.
Hey man, listen, thank you for having this conversation with me. I didn't expect to do the family stuff much, but I'm glad we did because that's an important aspect of this too. Like,
Mhm.
us as men, especially in our community, black men, like I feel like it's important for us to have these conversations.
Absolutely.
So I'm glad you was open to having it.
Yeah.
And man, look, I've known you for a couple years, man, and I can see why people like you. Real chill, real laid back,
Well, thank you.
and it's just us working together with this and with Styles. We shout out to Styles
Yeah,
working
shout
with
out.
us
Mhm.
together, man. It's been a real honor, pleasure meeting you and interacting with you, man. And I'm looking forward to with everything you got moving forward.
Thank you very much. A huge pleasure to be here. And I will, not to overstay my welcome. I would love to come back if you ever had, if there's any excuse to have me come back.
Oh yeah, you gonna come back because we didn't get a chance to do your movies. I wanted to have this conversation first, but
Yeah.
we definitely gonna have that conversation about movies since we both
Yeah.
like giving the industry our money.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, we gotta bump heads on some debates, man. I would love that.
And before we end it, make sure we tell the people how they can follow you.
Oh yeah. Well, if you are a movie buff like myself, you can subscribe to the YouTube page. Just simply look for Ryan Reviews Everything. Or if you're in the DMV area and maybe need a photographer for an event, just follow me on Instagram at Taylor_photos DMV.
All right. Well, thank you, man. I appreciate you. I want to take this time to thank everyone for listening to the podcast. I truly appreciate your support. You can follow me on Instagram at conversations_with_lamp. Facebook is also Conversations with Lamp. This episode of the podcast will be on YouTube, Apple, and SoundCloud. Please follow me on YouTube, Apple, and SoundCloud, and subscribe. Thank you all for listening. Have a great day.